What is the best way for business owners to keep track of the company's income and expenses for tax purposes? I'm Aaron Hall. You can learn more about me at aaronhall.com. And please see the disclaimer below this video. As a business owner, you know that the income and expenses can very quickly get out of control as you start having receipts and invoices and credit card transactions. Business owners often ask, what's the best way to track this? Well, first off, if there were a single best way, everybody would do it and this wouldn't be a question. The reason it's a challenge is it depends on the business. It depends on whether you're trying to be paperless or you keep track of everything in paper. Do you want to use QuickBooks? Do you have so many transactions that you need software to manage it? Or is a simple spreadsheet like Excel an option for you? Many business owners or entrepreneurs start out by keeping it really simple. Maybe it's on paper. Maybe they have a checking account just for the business at their local bank, and they write checks off that for expenses. And they may also have a debit card. So purchases that would require a credit or debit card would just be pulled straight from that checking account. That's a very simple way to have a bank keep track of all of your income and expenses. We talked about the expenses like a debit card and checks. Let's now talk about income. Typically, you're going to get income from a check that is written to you, or perhaps you accept credit cards. You might accept credit cards from PayPal, Square, or some other provider like that. Perhaps you have an online storefront, an e-commerce store, and that particular software is tied to a particular credit card merchant company. That might be an example, but typically that comes in to your checking account. Now, if the checking account logs transactions but doesn't include the person who actually paid, you'll need to make sure your credit card transaction company, your merchant company, has those reporting features, because you'll want to keep that for IRS purposes. At the end of the year, your tax preparer is typically going to ask you 4 questions, and so money will fall into one of these 4 categories. For example, if you're putting together an Excel spreadsheet, you probably have 4 columns, at least. But these for the buckets that this money drops into. Column number 1 is for income. Income that comes into the business. So when somebody pays you for your services or buys a product from you, that's the income. And then for expenses, you're typically going to have 3 types. You're going to have just basic business expenses, insurance, software, all these other things that you have, regular, ordinary business expenses for things you use right away. Next, you'll probably have a category for money that is used to purchase items, larger items that last multiple years, and those might need to be amortized. And then finally, in this 4th bucket, you're going to have meals and entertainment, or perhaps other expenses that are not deductible. It used to be that meals and entertainment were deductible, but starting in 2018, they're not. There are plenty of other articles and videos online that talk about that. I suppose there is one other category, and that is profit. At the end of the year, or maybe throughout the year, you might be pulling profit out of the business. And so that, you might call that an expense. It's typically called a profit distribution. But that profit is going to go to you, and that then will be subject to income tax on your tax return. So there you have it. That's a simple way to keep track of a very small business in a checking account and with a credit card merchant company. As you grow, typically bookkeepers are going to want to see software like Xero, Xero, or QuickBooks Online is probably the most popular one out there. Often, if you use an accountant or bookkeeper, they're going to have their preference regarding which you use. And from my experience, QuickBooks Online tends to be the most popular. Everybody has their favorite software, but as you grow, that's typically going to be the direction you go, unless you have some proprietary accounting software for your industry or that ties in with your other back-end software. To learn more, feel free to check out my other videos or visit aaronhall.com.